Hey, want a cookie? Oh, I know you just ate, so you're craving something a little sweet. Besides, one cookie isn't gonna kill you. How about half? Just a bite? Bite it. Bite it. Bite it.
Food noise isn't fair, but Mochi Health is. Your affordable GLP-1 source that puts you on a path to successful weight loss by quieting food noise.
Bite it.
Shh. Learn more at joinmochi.com. Mochi members have access to licensed physicians and nutritionists. Results may vary.
You're listening to this podcast, so I know you've got a curious mind. Here's a helpful fact you may not know yet. Drivers who switch and save with Progressive save over $900 on average. Pop over to Progressive.com, answer some questions, and you'll get a quick quote with discounts that are easy to come by. In fact, 99% of their auto customers earn at least one discount. Visit Progressive.com and see if you can enjoy a little cash back. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. National average 12-month savings of $946 by new customers surveyed who saved with Progressive between June 2024 and May 2025. Potential savings will vary.
Voices for Justice is a podcast that uses adult language and discusses sensitive and potentially triggering topics, including violence, abuse, and murder. This podcast may not be appropriate for younger audiences. All parties are innocent until proven guilty in a court of law. Some names have been changed or omitted per their request or for safety purposes. Listener discretion is advised. My name is Sarah Turney, and this is Voices for Justice. Today, I'm discussing the case of Jeana Lynn Burrus. On February 6, 2007, in a wooded area of Ashton Court in Sarasota, Florida, a 14-year-old found a bone sticking out of the ground. He showed his mother, who happened to be a nurse, and she immediately recognized it as human. Horrified, she called the police. Investigators quickly discovered that a woman had been buried in a shallow grave, but they weren't able to identify her. For 15 years, she was known as the Sarasota County Jane Doe. That is until November 2022. That's when investigators partnered with DNA Labs International to identify 39-year-old Jeana Lynn Burrus using DNA testing and genetic genealogy. Now at this point, it seems simple. They can match Jeana's name to a missing persons report and begin their investigation into what happened to her. But they soon discovered that despite Jeana clearly being missing for over 15 years, she was never reported missing by anyone. And in 2023, investigators turned to the media and the public for help in solving Jeana's case. This is the case of Jeana Lynn Burrus. Jeana was found on February 6, 2007, as I said before, by a 14-year-old who alerted his mother, a nurse. She recognized the bone as human and alerted law enforcement. When law enforcement arrived, they found Jeana buried in a shallow hole, only about 3 feet deep. She was lying on one side with one knee stuck up in the air. The full excavation process took 10 hours. Where she was found was described by law enforcement as an overgrown thicket covered by the shade of an oak tree. The woods are 50 yards south of Ashton Road in Sarasota, and this wooded area was directly behind the auto body shop where Jeana's husband, James Burrus, worked at the time. Sarah Avenue and Ashton Road intersect right before you get to James Burrus's former workplace, and it's about an 8-minute drive from the family's former home. Law enforcement believes her killer was familiar with this area of the woods and must have known it would conceal her body for many months. Skip Woods, who served as lieutenant of the Sarasota County Sheriff's Department at the time Jeana's body was found, said, quote, "This is an area that someone has obviously taken great care to obfuscate the fact that there is a body there." Now, they didn't have a lot of information, but investigators began working with what they had to try to identify Jeana. Dr. Russell Vega, the medical examiner who worked on Jeana's case, estimated that she had been buried for 7 to 12 months before she was found. Her remains were mostly skeletal and had suffered a lot of decomposition. They weren't able to get fingerprints or determine her eye color. Her hair was described as a reddish-brown with blonde streaks in it. It was pulled back into a ponytail. Dr. Vega estimated she was 5'5" to 5'9", 145 to 165 pounds, and between the ages of 30 and 40 years old. Dr. Vega also stated that she may have had a broken nose and wrist at some point in her life. Her skull also suffered fractures that appeared to have been made before she was buried. And her dental records showed that she had extensive dental work done. Now, they did get a successful DNA profile right away, but they didn't have anyone to compare it to. Jeana's skull was sent to a lab at the University of Florida in Gainesville for analysis. It was concluded that her cause of death was blunt force trauma to the head, and her death was ruled a homicide. Eventually, an image was generated of what Jeana may have looked like. This was printed on flyers and shown to employees of local businesses, but no one recognized her. Now, when Jeana was found, she was fully dressed, wearing a multicolored cotton pullover shirt with a tag reading "Made in Italy." She wore a miniskirt from the brand Spicewear that was described as lightly colored with a rear zipper and a drawstring belt. Some sources say the belt was leather and others say suede. She wore socks but no shoes, which indicated to investigators that she was likely carried to her grave. She also had on blue underwear. All of this clothing was processed by the FBI and tested for trace hair and fibers. Jeana also had breast implants, which law enforcement hoped might help identify her, but it seems that they were a popular model from before implants had serial numbers. The way they were implanted was not typical. This seemed like a good lead. They were implanted below the pectoral muscle, but above the mammary gland, a method that most surgeons didn't use. However, these details did not lead to a positive identification either. Jeana's case haunted investigators, specifically crime scene technician Maxine Miller, who was the first person to arrive on scene when Jeana was found. In a 2014 article for the Herald Tribune, Miller said she kept a copy of the sketch on a bulletin board in her office. She said she often looked at it and thought, "Who are you?" But they were out of leads, and Jeana's case sat for about another 4 years.
This episode of Voices for Justice is brought to you by Quince. I've been trying to be more intentional about what I wear each day. I'm leaning into pieces that feel effortless, comfortable, and still put together, and Quince has been my go-to. The fabrics feel elevated, the fits are flattering, and everything just works without overthinking it. They use premium materials like 100% European linen, organic cotton, and ultra-soft denim. And the best part? Everything is priced 50 to 80% less than similar brands. They work directly with ethical factories and cut out the middlemen, so you're paying for quality and craftsmanship, not brand markup. I recently just ordered their tiered linen dress, of course in black. I wanted to pair it with one of my favorite pairs of brown wedges. The problem was, I didn't have a brown purse, so I got that from Quince too. It's one of my favorite outfits. It's easy, effortless, and feels amazing, especially as we're getting a little bit warmer here in Phoenix. Refresh your everyday with luxury you'll actually use. Head to quince.com/justice for free shipping on your order and 365-day returns. Now available in Canada too. That's QUINCE.com/justice for free shipping and 365-day returns. Quince.com/justice. This episode of Voices for Justice is sponsored by Chewy. If you have pets, you probably know about Chewy, and you also know that when they say that they have everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy, they're not messing around. To keep them happy, Chewy has over 100,000 products from all the brands my pets love at prices I love. To keep them healthy, Chewy offers pet prescriptions, pet insurance, telehealth vet visits, and they're even rolling out vet clinics across the country. I've been shopping with them for a very long time. And in addition to the auto-ship feature that gets the dog's food to them every single month, I also love to experiment with different treats. But I'm a bit picky. For me, it has to be high quality with simple ingredients. I recently picked up treats from Shepherd Boy Farms that are 100% just chicken breast. Popcorn and Heber are already obsessed. Chewy has everything you need to keep your pet happy and healthy. And right now, you can save $20 on your first order and get free shipping by going to chewpanions.chewy.com/SarahETurney. That's chewpanions.chewy.com/SarahETurney to save $20 on your first order with free shipping. chewpanions.chewy.com/SarahEterney. Minimum purchase required. New customers only. Terms and conditions apply. See site for complete details.
In 2014, the Sarasota County Sheriff's Office released a new facial composite illustration. This was made by a new craniofacial recognition software created by the West Palm Beach County Sheriff's Office. Her remains were further studied at the University of South Florida. By this time, 2014, Jeana was the only unidentified body in Sarasota County, so this is a case that weighed heavily on those involved. And unfortunately, with the unidentified, this is just kind of how it goes. On occasion, law enforcement would re-release her composite image and case details to the media in hopes of getting new leads. Her DNA was compared with over 40 missing American women, and none of them were matches. And they continued to run her DNA periodically. Then, in November 2022, they got a match, and the first ever break in the case. Thanks to new technology through DNA Labs International, they were able to match her DNA to Jeana's aunt and uncle, who had submitted their profiles to trace their family tree. Law enforcement reached out to the couple, who quickly identified their estranged niece, Jeana Burrus. They said that they'd fallen out of touch with Jeana. They did try to follow up when they hadn't heard from her, but never got a response. While Jeana had now finally been identified, investigators were obviously missing some key pieces to solve this puzzle of what happened to her. And on August 2nd, 2023, they turned to the media and public for help. When the sheriff's office announced Jeana's identity, the public responded with the question I'm sure you're all wondering. How did no one report her missing for over 15 years? Now, in a press conference, law enforcement said that Jeana struggled with depression and didn't reach out to her family very often. So they assumed that she'd become estranged, but didn't know that she was missing or deceased. They also said that Jeana and her husband James were struggling at the time and had a, quote, volatile relationship. Jeana's uncle, Claire George Wiedemeyer, told WJZ News in Maryland, quote, in 2006, we didn't hear, so I waited a little bit to see if her stepfather heard. He didn't. Or if her brother heard. He didn't. So I proceeded to call the husband, and it went on and on. The following year, or the year before, I attempted to call Jamie again, and there was no answer. The phone was turned off, and then I had no way of tracking him. Immediately, detectives had their eyes on one man, James Burrus, who also went by Jamie. And they quickly discovered he had never reported Jeana missing. Now, we don't know a lot about Jeana and James's life before Jeana was found. But here's what we do know. And this comes directly from investigators who are trying their hardest to share this information. It appears that Jeana began a relationship with James in the late 90s or early 2000s. Together, they had one son, James Burrus Jr. Both Jeana and James's families are from Maryland. While Jeana and James were together, they lived in Citrus County, Florida, and Frederick, Maryland, before moving to Pauline Avenue in Sarasota, Florida around 2005. The home is a part of Gulf Gate Estates, a census-delegated region of Florida. It's believed that the Burrus family lived at the Pauline Avenue home from 2005 to 2006. Jeana was likely 39 at the time of her death. She was unemployed. James Burrus Sr. worked at an auto body shop on Sarah Avenue in Sarasota. That business is now Callaway European Automotive, but it was under a different name when James worked there. James is said to have left Sarasota with his son around the time Jeana's body was found. He initially moved to California, then moved back to Maryland near his family in Frederickson. Now, back to present day. Investigators did eventually find him in Maryland, where he still lives with his son, who is now around 20 years old. And this next part is heartbreaking. Jeana's son said that he was told his mother abandoned him and his father at a young age. Which I can't even imagine how hard all of this has to be for him. And of course, as this case develops, new information is being discovered. like how James apparently tried to file for divorce from Jeana in 2015. The documents were sent to an address in Citrus County, where the couple lived from 2002 to 2004, but they were undeliverable. James Burrus Sr. is currently the sole person of interest in this case. Sarasota County Sheriff Kurt Hoffman traveled to Maryland to interview James and told News Nation, quote, "Frankly, the answers that we got were just not consistent from what you would see from a spouse who has a loved one go missing. So we're still working a lot of leads in this case, but he is the main focus of this investigation, and he is certainly aware of that. He sat down with our detectives, and I think it's safe to say that he knows we're not satisfied with the answers we got from him." James Burrus Jr. was also interviewed, but Hoffman said that since he was so young when he last saw his mom, the information they got from him was just not very useful. The current lieutenant and Jeana's uncle both stated that her family in Maryland was shocked to realize that James had been living so close to them nearly the whole time they hadn't heard from Jeana. Now, police have searched the Burrus' old home on Pauline Avenue, as well as the auto body shop where James worked. They tested for blood and other evidence, but so far they haven't found anything. And the results from the testing of Jeana's clothes either haven't come back or haven't been made public.
At DSW, we ask the important questions, like, what shoes are you going to wear? Whether you're prepping for wedding season, festival season, or just planning the ultimate vacay, the right shoes can make or break an RSVP. So own the moment. You've got big plans, and we've got just the shoes. At the perfect price, of course. Get ready to get ready with Designer Shoe Warehouse. Head to your DSW store or dsw.com today, and let us surprise you.
What they did to your family, you're lucky to make it out alive.
Streaming on Peacock.
These men are going to come after me. Taking them out is my only chance.
Put a bullet in her head.
From the co-creator of Ozark.
Looks like a family was running drugs.
Execution-style killing, it's rare for the Keys. Any leads on who they might have been running for?
The cartel killed my family. I'm gonna kill them. All of them.
MIA. Streaming now. Only on Peacock.
As I mentioned, the police have turned to the media and the public for help in generating more leads for Jeana's case. It really feels like they're just a few puzzle pieces away from solving this. Jeana's son and the rest of her family deserve answers. Jeana's uncle told the media, quote, "She was a good mom. She did anything and everything to please her husband. And this whole thing is more than shocking. We couldn't believe it when we were at the table with the police. We just couldn't believe it. It's got to be solved. It's got to be some type of justice." Which brings me right to our call to action. While Jeana was found over 15 years ago, they just discovered her identity. And like I've said so many times, investigators are now turning to the media and the public for help. So let's do what we do best. Please share Jeana's name, photo, and story in hopes that someone will come forward with information. As a reminder, we don't know exactly when Jeana Burrus went missing, but her remains were found in February 2007 in a wooded area in Sarasota, Florida. If you or anyone you know knew Jeana Burrus or James Burrus, or lived in or around this area between 2005 and 2007 and have relevant information, please reach out to the Sarasota County Sheriff's Department at 941-861-4900. But as always, thank you, I love you, and I'll talk to you next time. Voices for Justice is hosted and produced by me, Sarah Turney, and is a Voices for Justice media original. This episode contains writing and research assistance by Brooke Haynes. If you love what we do here, please don't forget to follow, rate, and review the show in your podcast player. It's an easy and free way to help us and help more people find these cases in need of justice. Welcome to the secret after show. The air conditioning is back on, the dogs are in, Marley is licking his paw if you can hear it, and with this episode, I really just first and foremost want to send some love to Jeana's son, James. I mean, being told that your mom left you and to now be presented with all of this new information is something I would never wish upon my worst enemy. And I can't say that I've been through that exact situation, but I do believe I've been through something similar, and I can tell you it is not easy. It is not easy to make an entire shift about what you thought your life was to make room for this new information. So, and I don't know what James believes. I don't think that he's really said much to the media. I was looking today as of recording this episode, and there were no new updates. So again, I just want to send love to James, and I hope if he begins to speak out, if he chooses to say anything or do anything, that you guys will make sure that he is met with love and not horrible, horrible things that the internet can do to people like him. Now, the reason I chose this case was for a few different reasons. One, it's very timely. Obviously, like I said about 1,000 times in this shorter episode, investigators need our help. They are turning to the public and the media for help in sharing this case. And it really does seem like when it first came out in the beginning of August, it was kind of everywhere. It was this big, huge thing, and then it just slowly died down like these stories do. And you guys know how I have a very soft spot in my heart for stories like that. Just because it's not, just because there's not more information to be used for an update does not mean it's not important. Like I said, I know that this episode was on the shorter side, but I think it's really important. And one, they are asking for help, so hi, here I am. Hopefully this episode helps at least a little. Please share. And two, it's one of those cases that I think has this element of hope. And you guys know how much I like highlighting the hope. We have a whole segment here, which I will get to. I did not forget about it. But it's just really cool to see, her being identified after so many years is really, really neat. Of course, we hope the whole thing didn't happen. I think that goes without saying at this point. But there is hope for the unidentified to be identified. And it really just goes along with so much that I'm doing outside of this show. As you guys know, I am on the board of a nonprofit called Season of Justice. I helped build out their entire family grants program, but in addition to helping families, what we also do is help fund law enforcement for things just like this. Specifically, we do work with DNA Labs International. So it's just really cool to see. Of course, Season of Justice didn't have a direct tie to this case, but it's in the realm of what I do every single day, and it's just really interesting and neat to keep up with, like I said. Also, it goes along with an episode that will be coming up soon. I am getting together with my friend Laura Norton from the Fall Line podcast and One Strange Thing to talk about her new book, Lay Them to Rest, in an upcoming episode. Now, if you guys haven't heard, the book is available for pre-order, so it's not quite out yet, but she basically details helping solve a case, helping, identify someone who is unidentified. So I feel like I've very much been living in this world for a while, and as Laura knows, it's really hard to cover these cases of an unidentified person because obviously there's just not as much material, and she does a fantastic job of doing that. She is one of the best in the business if you want to go check her out. Now, let's get to what you guys are probably, I don't know, that feels really conceited to say, but I imagine maybe a few of you out there are wondering why this after show hasn't been happening. And let me tell you that they actually have. I've been recording them and deleting them because I feel like I haven't been able to form coherent thoughts without a script for a while since the trial. I would go on these really long rants about like thanking people, and it's not like it was horrible. I'm sure you guys would give me great feedback. I just didn't feel like I was in my right headspace to just go off the cuff and be really, really real with you guys like I am in this after show. Honestly, it's kind of scary and vulnerable, I think, out of anywhere on the internet, maybe besides some silly TikToks. This is where I'm the most real with you guys. And not to say that I'm not real in the episodes, but obviously it's scripted. There's not very many productions where I just speak off the cuff like this. As you guys know, this segment is not scripted. Sometimes I do have talking points to keep myself on track because I will go everywhere. So they have been happening, but I've been deleting them. I just needed some time. But I did want to give you guys a little insight into how I feel and what's been happening. Now, I actually just did my first interview since the trial. And again, I feel so conceited when I say this, but I've been solicited, for lack of a better word. I have been reached out to by a lot of companies who want to do, a 1 hour, 2 hour special or whatever on Alyssa, right? Your Datelines, your 2020, your 48 hours, all of them. And I kept asking myself the question of, what does this do for Alyssa? And I couldn't quite answer that question. And I think now, and I did allude to this a long time ago on Twitter. I think I made a very sassy tweet about how I wouldn't be doing interviews for people who didn't seem to care about Alyssa before there was a conclusion in this case. And I find myself just asking those same questions. How does this benefit my mental health? How does this benefit Alyssa's case? How does this benefit anyone but the productions doing it? And to be honest, I'm in a very different place now. When I first started this journey, I interviewed with anyone and everyone. I think there was only one person that I said no to, and I forget what it was. It was something like they just really sketched me out, and I was like, I don't like this. This feels weird. And, long story short, I did every interview I could. That included going to an apartment of a YouTube channel that literally I think had less than 10 subscribers, and I was happy to do it. Now I'm in a different place, and the idea of sitting down for an interview with a large production where I have zero say in how they're going to mold Alyssa's story, how they're going to tell it, how they're going to tell my story, I didn't see a benefit. I mean, of course, it would draw attention back to the show. But with that being said, I have some other projects in place where I get to finally tell my story. I get to tell Alyssa's story in a very complete way that is not censored under the chance of this going to court. If you guys have followed me for a long time, this shouldn't be new news to you. I've said this forever. Season 1 of Voices for Justice, talking about Alyssa's case, is very much a retelling of her case file. Of course, I do have slight opinions put in there, and I do have some interviews, obviously, but I very much designed that to hold up in court, and it did. They weren't able to take it down. They weren't able to use it against me very much. There's still so much you guys don't know, and it's hard to give all the context here. But long story short, I am going in a different direction. I am ready to tell Alyssa's story. I am working on telling Alyssa's story in a few different formats. I am also working with some other families to help tell their stories. So I'm super excited. I can't say any more. I shouldn't say any more. I probably already said too much, but stay tuned. Also, if you guys haven't noticed, I've been mostly on Instagram. I'm really trying to figure out how to make this a better video format because I am the worst at filming videos whenever I do anything, so I am working on that. But if you guys have noticed, if you follow me on Instagram at Sarah E. Turney, I feel like I have to plug it. Gosh, that felt so weird. But I have this kind of new series I'm developing, and it's about me trying to fall back in love with life. That's currently where I'm at. I think it might be a little surprising, and I just talked about this in my latest interview, which felt so weird. I haven't interviewed in so long about Alyssa's case, but I am at so much peace now. I have so much peace now. I, of course, wanted this trial to go another way, but there was a point in which it became very obvious that we were not going to get the outcome that I desired, the outcome that I think most of us believe Alyssa deserved. And I did make peace with that very early on, and I think that's because I really did everything I could for her. And see, I'm like still so conflicted, but I swear I do have peace. It's hard to give that up and to admit that on this podcast, that I did all I could. And of course, there are a few things that I will still be pursuing in the background that I'll give you more information on later. But this is the first time in my life, at least in 22 years, as you guys know, when I was 12 when Alyssa went missing, and I created her first flyer. I created a whole website called Arizona Runaways that featured, of course, Alyssa's case, but other kids who I should have never fucking called it Arizona Runaways. It should have been missing or something like that. But of course, I was a child, did not know better. What I'm trying to say is, since I was 12, Alyssa's case has been a huge part of my life. Even when I try to run away from it, you know, seeing her flyer, going to events like the National Center for Missing Exploited Children when they had her picture featured on a racing car hood. I'm so bad at sports, but a race car hood, all the way up until I was about 17 when my dad asked me to be the point person on her case. And of course I took over everything, and then, by my mid-20s, I was told we did everything we could get media attention, which put me on this track. So, you guys know that journey, but like I said, since I was 12 years old, Alyssa has been a huge part of my life, her case, I should say. And obviously, during that time also, my father was arrested for the pipe bombs, which we weren't allowed to talk about in court. And I defended him. I defended him as hard as I defend Alyssa. Of course, we know I just didn't know any better, and I was scared. If we're being really, really honest, I was terrified to lose the only parent I had left in this world, the only person in this world that took care of me. And I know I was abused and neglected and drugged, and it was horrible. But the only person in this world who provided a roof over my head, that provided food in my stomach, that would pick me up at 3 a.m. if my car broke down. For all the bad, there was some good in there, and I didn't know any better in terms of abuse. So when my dad went to prison, I was terrified, and I did absolutely everything I could do to help him before I realized the truth of who he was. So all of that to say, a very long rant. Hello, welcome to the Secret After Show. This is what I do here. My whole life, mostly, has been living for other people, primarily my family, and I don't regret that. I don't. Even at the time, I thought helping my dad was the right thing to do, and I don't ever regret doing what I thought was right. I don't regret working for Alyssa. I don't regret giving up my life for her at all, because she would have done the same, if not more. But now I'm in this new stage in my life where I don't quite know what to do with myself sometimes. Where don't cry. Where I can watch a movie without feeling guilt that I wasn't working for Alyssa. And I have talked about this a little bit, but I don't think I realized how heavy that burden really was on me until it was gone. Until that weight was lifted from my shoulders, and I felt this immense sense of peace, of this is a situation that didn't always go my way. It didn't end the way I hoped it would end. But truly, there was nothing else I could do. There was no amount of waiting that would have produced new evidence. My father will never confess. I truly did what I could. And now I have to learn how to fall back in love with life. I have to learn who I am again outside of this extreme passion for advocacy and for justice, obviously. That is something that is so ingrained in me that will never go away now. But I have to learn all those little things, for a long time. Everything I did felt like, it really was a reflection of Alyssa's case. If I wore something that was scandalous, would that come back to Alyssa? If I dyed my hair a fun color, would that make people not want to listen to Alyssa's story? If I had a controversial opinion about something, would that keep people away from Alyssa's story? And of course, I've had my fair share of, slightly controversial opinions when it comes to true crime. When I started talking about ethics in true crime, it was like, what do you mean? Family members should just be grateful for all and every and all coverage of their case, no matter how terrible it was. That's a story for a different time, but you guys know what I mean. I felt like I was living this semi-edited version of myself, at least in the public sphere, for Alyssa. And again, I don't regret that. I think at the time, what I was doing was a very successful model. Being easy to work with, being agreeable, made so many people want to cover Alyssa's story. I made it as easy as possible for these creators to work with me. And now I'm in a different space. And that's not to say that I'm not the person that you saw on those podcasts, because that is me. It's just not me with me wearing whatever I want, or me possibly bringing out, some of my upbringing from running the streets until I was 17. I really did try to put the best version of myself forward, and now, obviously, for this case, for my public persona and everything, like, I still am always striving to be the best that I can be, but now I feel like there's freedom to show you more of my mistakes and just wear what I want and speak the way I more naturally speak, which has a lot of curse words. Some of you might have picked up here in the after show, but again, I don't know. I'm in between this stage of who I had to be for Alyssa, which again was still me. I'm not trying to say that none of that was real, because it was, but I'm slowly finding myself again. And I really hope that made sense. I definitely went on a huge tangent there, but I think if you guys are here and you followed me for a long time, you probably get it. Now, before we get to the segment of hope that I want to leave you on, I'm flirting with a new segment here. I don't know how long. This after show is going to spin off into a real show, maybe eventually, but I thought it'd be kind of fun to talk about what I'm reading, what I'm watching. I can't guarantee that I will have one of these for every single week, because there are some weeks where I just need to escape true crime. I'm not going to lie. But let me tell you about what I have watched. And this really, I'm so interested in hearing your guys' opinion, because I felt so conflicted and so off base with what a lot of the world was talking about during this incident. So I'm talking about on Netflix, they released Heard versus Depp, which is, of course, talking about Amber Heard and Johnny Depp and that whole trial that unraveled. Now, I thought the documentary was really well done, because I think my disconnect from the rest of the world while this was going on was trying to stay objective. I think Amber Heard was absolutely slayed in the media, and I don't know. See, and I'm still in this mindset of like, oh gosh, I'm getting too controversial. But the thing is, like, is it believe all victims, or is it believe all victims but Amber Heard? And let's just be real. Now, where I stand on this is that I think they both did really terrible things to each other. And I don't think a lot of people like that middle opinion, but I think, and again, there's so much in that case. I'm not saying that either of them were perfect. I'm basically just trying to say they both were terrible to each other, and I think it's really unfortunate how this played out, because I do think it kind of set people back. It set victims back, because the whole game was trying to see who was lying, right? And I think it's possible that both of them were telling a version of the truth. I don't know. You might hate me now for saying that. I don't know. Let me know what you think, because I don't know. It was just an interesting documentary, and I think outside of the case itself and outside of, the events that transpired between these celebrities, analyzing the way the media picked it up, and specifically the way that influencers and independent content creators picked it up, was so telling. I mean, the amount of money people made talking about that case is a phenomenon all in itself. But I thought it was really well done. You guys, let me know what you think in the comments on social media. I know that Spotify has an option where you can tell me what you think of this episode. You can tell me I suck. You can tell me I'm wrong. I don't care. Do what you gotta do. Now, I will say in this segment of what I'm watching, what I'm reading, I want to let you know that I did finish Lay Them to Rest by Laura Norton. And again, I mentioned it earlier, but I just wanted to plug it again. Laura is doing the real work in this industry. And I'm not saying advocacy isn't real work, but she is going out there. She is talking to experts. She is talking to law enforcement. She is digging through boxes of bones trying to solve these cases. So if you're looking for something that has a heavy science element to it, talking about how these cases get solved, how the unidentified becomes identified, definitely check out Lay Them to Rest by Laura Norton. And now, last but not least, and now, you guys, I am on one today. It's because I'm back. It's because I'm back, baby, in the after show. And I'm ready to talk about our segment of hope. And you guys know how this goes. I take this from a news article and I just kind of read it. Because I don't like to go so scripted here. I don't want to read this and script something out. We're just going to talk about what happened. So I am talking about, this is from the Detroit Free Press. This was published on August 21st, 2023 by Frank Witzel. I hope I said that correctly. And this is newborn Livonia? You guys, I think that's how you say it. Newborn Livonia twins found safe after Amber Alert, MSP reports. It reads, 2-week-old twin boys who were taken early Monday by a Livonia hotel by two women who drove off in a black Jeep Grand Cherokee have been located and are safe as investigators investigate what happened, police said. And there's a quote, "The children have been recovered safely and the Livonia police will be issuing more information shortly." So there was an Amber Alert for these two boys and they were found. I think we can keep it short but sweet. Amber Alerts work, and this is great proof. It's always nice to see when the system works as designed. And again, of course, we wish all these terrible things never happened, that they were never taken, but they were found. All right, and here's how you say it.
Livonia.
Livonia. Okay, I said it right. All right. Don't come for me. I know I should have looked it up before. I didn't expect it to be that tricky. I swear I said it in my head and decided it was fine, and my paranoia got the best of me, but I did say it right. So, as always, thank you for tolerating me here in this secret after show moment. I love you, and I'll talk to you next time.